Hey there. Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive, both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab some espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode 279 is titled Chamber Music and Touring with Michael Avitabile.
Hey everyone, this is Corinne Smith here from the William S. Haynes Company. I'm excited to introduce to you an exciting new initiative that is available now to flute teachers. Introducing Club 88 for educators. We know that educators like you provide the inspiration and enthusiasm for the next generation of flutists. We literally couldn't do it without you. So we have made Club 88 for Educators an exclusively inclusive club for flute teachers all around the world. Club 88 for Educators offers a specially tailored selection of perks and benefits we can offer you for spreading your love for all things Haynes. These benefits include discount on Haynes merch, the opportunity to earn Haynes dollars to purchase goods, services, and events, a community forum where you can share ideas, tips, and tricks and stay connected with the Haynes family of educators, free shipping on studio samplers within the continental United States, priority scheduling for Haynes University classes, and invitations to exclusive Club 88 events at festivals and conventions around the world. We believe that teaching should be more rewarding, and with Club 88 for Educators from Haynes, it will be. To find out more information and to sign up to start earning your rewards today, visit our website at wmshaynes.com/Club 88.
Hello.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Oh, good. Yeah, my pleasure. I'm good. It's a beautiful Thursday here in Texas, and I can't complain.
Oh, good. Where in Texas are you?
Dallas.
Oh, I've been to and played in every other big city in Texas except for Dallas.
Oh.
I've never been. I need to change that.
Yeah, it's a great city.
I hear really good things about it because I'm going to, we're going to be in Houston in February. And I love going to Houston because I always eat my body weight in barbecue and tacos, things that I don't get up here in the icy north. But never been to Dallas. I have to change that. I have to tell our management.
Yeah. We're adding one more stop to our tour and we're going west to Dallas.
For more barbecue and more tacos.
Exactly. I love it. Eat my weight in tacos and barbecue. You are sounding like a true Texan.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone ever said to me.
Oh, shoot. So what part of icy north do you live in?
I live in Michigan.
Okay.
I live in Ann Arbor. I moved back to Ann Arbor, last summer. I lived in Boston for 10 years. And I moved back to Ann Arbor. And next semester, I'm starting to adjunct at University of Michigan, which is super exciting. So I'm really happy about that. Thank you. Thank you. I have one course next semester, which was the limit of what I could take on. But I'm really excited about it. It's a course on commissioning through their Excel program, which is kind of their career development entrepreneurial department at the School of Music. And it's for performers and composers, and it's a whole deep dive into the commissioning process and the contracting and the fundraising and the project development, and it should be a really good course.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. And from one flutepreneur to the next, that is a breath of fresh air to my ears.
Yay.
Because you are a living entrepreneur. You are walking the walk. You're doing your thing. And you are actually teaching in academia about your experience. And yes, you probably are using some resources like books and things to refer to, but you are probably mostly teaching from experience, correct?
It's mostly, if not entirely from experience. I'm co-teaching it with a composer colleague, and we're just joking that one of the classes, we're just going to answer our email for the hour. and just project and be like, all right, kids, this is the battlefield. Here we go. Welcome to Gmail.
I love it.
Live Gmailing right here.
Oh my goodness. Can we dive a little bit more into the curriculum of this course? Because I don't think I've ever done anything like that. It segues beautifully into the things that you're passionate about, like balancing admin work and artistic work and things like that. Let me preface this first and get some backstory. Is this a new course that's being offered through the University of Michigan, or is it kind of being like transferred over to you?
It's an entirely new course. We're the first round of first year that they're offering it. We pitched the course to the department head, and they liked it, and they said yes. And we're on the curriculum now. We're on the syllabus.
Yay! So then my question actually then does work. As a new course, and as you are building out the curriculum with your colleague, what are you noticing? What is the process like? Where is your headspace? Like, where do you start? Because you're not taking it, the baton isn't being passed to you with, prerequisites or like a curriculum or a syllabus in place. You get to form this and create this from your own headspace and experience. And it's a new baby, right? So what's the process like? What does that look like?
Oh gosh. Well, it's mostly just me and my colleague Gala Flagello, who I'm co-teaching it with, sitting down and drinking too much coffee and saying, what if we did this? But more seriously, I do a lecture, like a one-off lecture on Hub's commissioning process. So whenever we go to a university and there's like a career department or an entrepreneurial department, I'll usually give that talk. And so it's basically how we're structuring it is we're taking that talk and just fleshing it out into an entire course. Because inevitably, when I try to cram it all into like an hour and a half lecture, there are some things that I'm like glassing over, or like I'm talking so fast that I sound like the end of an infomercial. And so it's really nice to like just have the luxurious amount of space to really deep dive into a lot of the topics. And because I'm co-teaching with a composer, it's really nice because we get kind of both ends of what that kind of business transaction looks like, because I am always on the performer and usually on the commissioning end. Gala's a composer, she's on the composer end of things. So it's really nice to like look at all of these different facets, from like what the initial like project pitches look like, or making press materials, or fundraising, or making a concept for a piece, or the contracting. It's really nice to address both. To address everything from both ends of things. Like, what does this look like from the commissioner and the performer perspective? What does this look like from the composer perspective? Because our students are going to be both. They're both, the course is designed for composition students, performance students, and I believe there's an arts admin minor at Michigan, and it's geared for those students as well. So we're, working on, addressing every kind of subset of this universe that we would be working with. So we're basically taking, in designing it, some of it's going to be devoted to like, how does a composer make an effective website to make sure that their materials are clear? So if somebody wants to commission them, like it's easy to do that. And then how do you fundraise for a commission? Like, what are the various sources of income that you would need to make this thing come to life? And then what does a good contract look like? And, what are the premiere dates, the exclusivity dates, recording, who gets what, and, what happens if various situations occur. And it's really nice to like not have to cram that into like 3 sentences and like move on to the next PowerPoint slide. I mean, like, good luck, kids, but it's really, it's a real luxury to have all of this time to teach it. I think what we're going to do is, our plan is, to any of the students who are going to take my course next semester, this is a preview, I think what we're going to try to do, depending on the enrollment numbers, is we're going to try to pair a commissioner with a composer in the class and have their like semester long or course long project be a commission, whether it actually like comes to life or it's purely just, like fictitious and experimental for the sake of academia. Either way, I'm such a big fan of like doing the thing in the course, because entrepreneurial courses are not theoretical. It's purely skill-based, it's purely application-based. So why not just do it in the course within the context of a place where you can have guided instruction through every step of the way?
Oh, you are my new best friend. You are literally speaking. You're speaking my language, and I just feel so seen, and it sounds phenomenal. I want to take your course. That is fantastic.
I'm so excited to teach it. I have to actually over once the chaos of the fall is over, Gala and I will sit down and write up the formal syllabus. And right now we're just shooting ideas back and forth about what the final exact structure of the course is going to look like.
Oh my goodness, your students are so lucky to have you and your colleague, and the experimental factor and actually doing the thing is so genius because you learn from doing,
Oh yeah. And
if you just read it, it's totally different.
It's totally different. We're teaching a skill. So they should practice doing the skill. And better to practice doing the skill in the confines of the safety of your school, where, the risk factors are not quite as great as they are out in the professional world. Get the mistakes out of the way, because I did not have that luxury as a student. I was out doing all of my entrepreneurial, administrative, commissioning, whatever work out in the real world where, it was not as safe of a bubble as school is. And so I was like, wow, wouldn't it be great if I learned how to screw that up in school and it didn't have professional ramifications on my career and reputation. So now I'm offering what I was not given.
Exactly. Yes. From 2018 to 2020, I'm still learning as I go. But from 2018 to 2020, as I'm picking up these entrepreneurial skills, yes to that. I mean, oh my goodness, you learn and you have successes. There are mistakes along the way, and you learn those lessons very quickly. When you make that mistake, you're like, ooh, I will never do that again.
Yeah. You're like, oops, sorry.
Oops. My bad. Oh yeah, I love that. And then they can kind of be picking your brain along the way, and that safe space and all of that is so genius. So I'm curious, as a creative artist, because you are so creative and you are pouring your knowledge into a curriculum, does organization come easy to you? Or is it kind of like, oh my gosh, I have all of these ideas. How am I going to fit it into 16 weeks?
Oh God, it depends on the day.
Okay.
It's only an 8-week course. Thank God.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I could fill a 16-week course with that. I mean, we have information, but not that much information. So I actually think that the artistic, and I guess it kind of plays into balancing the administrative and the artistic work. I think that the flute side of things actually informs my organizational practices a lot, especially in a really crazy time of the year where there's a lot of music on my stand, and I have to balance a lot. With my practice time, I'm down to the minute of okay, I have my timer on for this 15 minutes and I have to learn this passage in this amount of time, and this is the amount of time I have to do it, and so got to get it done. And so I find that actually translates really well into the administrative thing, where it's okay, I have all of these things I need to do, and they need to get siphoned into some kind of block of time, and this is where it happens. And not just in the curricular design for this course, but also for just my day-to-day administrative life directing Hub New Music, where I have this number of tasks that need to get done. This is my chaotic notebook that has so many to-do lists, which maybe doesn't even look that organized. Maybe I'm not organized. Look, see, it's really great. And but I do think that the skills of having to be efficient in the practice room are so transferable to having to organize one's administrative calendar, whether you're teaching or doing administrative work in in an organization or really anything. So I think a big thing that I come back to, when I'm doing entrepreneurial talks or just my own kind of personal practice, is that I really try not to have these two things, being a flute player, being a musician, and being an administrator, be antagonistic to one another. On my best days, I feel like those two kind of symbiotically feed one another, and it keeps me afloat. Because if I find that these two very major facets of my life are antagonistic to one another, then it's all over. And then I close the laptop and I go around the corner for a coffee or bake a pie or something.
Or let your brain melt or something. Yeah.
Oh, it's already melted. It's gone. I haven't had a brain since 2021.
Perfect. Oh, shoot. No, yeah, I totally relate to that 1000%. I cannot, and that's like very esque in a similar way, the 360ness of Flute 360. I really can't see, like, I cannot compartmentalize my life like that. What I do as an entrepreneur feeds my artistic life and vice versa, and teaching and all of that. So, like, one thing in business that has really taught me is like a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like, MVP, minimum viable product. Get that bad boy out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be completely polished. We can do through iterations 2.0, 3.0, we can, you know, air quote, perfect it, but just get that bad boy out there. And that feeds my practicing or my performances. It's like, all right, what can I do in this amount of time to get the MVP out there? Because if I like, you know, try to sculpt it down so much, which is good. You know, there's a lot of greatness to paying attention to the details. But if I am so fixated on that perfectionism and perfecting that passage too much, it'll never get out there. So that entrepreneurial world is like, all right, Heidi, let's get this out, you know, in your artistic world. And it feeds one another.
Oh yeah, I actually have not heard that term before, and I wrote it down. I'm like circling it like 5 times in my chaos notebook because we're in the midst of editing a lot of albums right now. We have a single coming out, I think, in the next couple of weeks, and then we're in the thick of editing a big album right now. And so much of that process is like, you could go through 10 rounds of editing, or you could go through 5 rounds of editing and get it done and also not ride up your post-production bill to the point where, you know, the album is way over budget. And that's something so that we think about a lot when doing album editing, because as musicians, we're all like the most like hyper perfectionists that are out there, right? And we want to be like, no, the and of 4 in bar 65 didn't speak to me quite as much as the and of 4 in bar 63, and I cannot send this out into the world. And then you realize you're like, I just have to let it go, and I have to send it out, and nobody is going to know this recording or this passage as intimately as I do, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, 1000%. So a lot of 360ers come to me, and one of their pain points is I have a lot of ideas for these different creative projects. Like my brain wants to do project A through Z. But I never execute, and I never pick one project from A to Z because I want to do all the things, and then I'm spread too thin, and then nothing gets executed, nothing gets produced and published out into the world. So do you have a similar pain point in that arena, or are you really good at going, oh, I would love to do this commission. Ooh, I would love to do that recording. And then you kind of like, how do you pick and choose? Because it seems like your mind is always going. It seems like you are already thinking of like next year and the 5-year plan for like your ensemble and things like that. How do you choose? And then like, what makes you go, okay, we are going to actually do this thing, and I'm not going to toy around with like 10 different ideas?
Yeah, there's always a lot in the pipeline, as we call it, whether it's, you know, a bunch of commissions that we have coming up or recording projects. For us, a lot of the time, the really nice thing is that a lot of those decisions are not really, made by us, in that, you know, if we want to work with said composers, it's just as much about their timeline as it is ours. Like, we could want a piece from so-and-so in 2 seasons, but they can't deliver it in 3 or 4 seasons. And so they'll just say, I need to have this piece in 2026. And we're like, okay, 2026 it is. We'll do it in 26. Or our video or audio album engineers be like, I have so much on my plate right now that I can't take on a new project until, you know, next spring. And then, okay, so we'll start post-production on it next spring. It'll come out a year later after that. And so because so much of what we do is so hyper collaborative, like our schedules aren't really the only factor. If it is entirely in our court, a lot of it also depends on like what like presenter interest for us with commission projects. So, you know, we'll have a handful of commissions that we're offering for presenting organizations or funders or grantors, whatever, to co-commission. And whatever the funders wind up picking, saying like, oh yeah, I want to co-commission that piece. We're like, okay, well that's the one that's happening right now because it's the one that we have the support for. And so it really, funny enough, like honestly, a lot of the time we have our big pot of ideas and we have what's fleshed out and what's like ready to kind of send out into the world for fundraising or whatnot. And it's often like the funder, the composer, the engineer, the record label, the publicist, like all helps us dictate how the calendar gets organized. And I really like it that way because I love having things to look forward to. When someone comes to you and I want to do projects A to Z, and they're like, oh, I can't do them all. Well, yes, you can, but you can do them all over like 10 years. And that's like a viable, sustainable career. And isn't that much more fun than like doing 26 A through Z things at the same time, all kind of maybe not with as much attention as you'd like to, and then kind of everything is medium.
That's a good point. I never thought of it like that before. Yeah, get excited for project XYZ in 10 years.
Yeah, and then you just bring a new self, and there are projects that we'll do like commissions or recording or what have you. Like we're editing now a project that it's a collaborative endeavor that we do with a shakuhachi player named Kojiro Umezaki, who's with Silk Road Ensemble, and he's one of my favorite humans on this earth. And we did that project, the first performance of it, at the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts in November of 2017. And then we toured it to Japan for 2 weeks, and we've been touring it all over since then. It's like our longest running project, and we just recorded it this past May. COVID kind of had something to do with that. Or there's a global pandemic and all your projects get pushed, right?
There you go.
Other factors that are not us. How did I not even think about the plague that pushed back a lot of projects? And so, but now that we're doing it and I'm getting the first edits back and recording it, I'm thinking like, I am so happy that I did it this year. Because I don't think I was in a place artistically where I would feel good about laying that down 6 years ago. It was great to have that 6-year kind of gestation period to grow as an artist and as a flute player, and to, listen back to these and be like, okay, I'm happy with this. This is exactly when it was supposed to happen. So, pushing something and having something to look forward to is also really great, because then you bring a different version of yourself to the project that you're doing it when you do it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like sometimes students are super, super sweet and they come and they onboard into my studio and they say, oh my gosh, where have you been my whole entire life? I wish I would have studied with you a few years ago. I'm like, well, actually, I don't think I would have been like this version of Heidi that you see now 2 years ago. Like I'm showing up in a completely different way because I've grown in X capacity.
Oh yeah, and it's same thing for the student, I'm sure, because they're a different person and they're in a place where they can like more effectively receive that knowledge. So I think it's just good to have things to look forward to in the juggling of various endeavors that we all want to do.
Yeah, timing is everything. Because a lot of times when I want to collaborate or partner with a flute company or some sort of business partnership, a lot of the times it's a matter of timing. Like what you said with the recording engineer, the composer, the performers, it all has to sync up. And then when it does sync up, like that's when magic happens. And that's when, you know what I mean?
It's the Venn diagram, like everything, like people have what they're doing and what their priorities are. And then that moment where the Venn diagram is like bingo right in the middle, it's perfect. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is great. And then it's easy. I mean, I feel like if you're doing a project and it's like you're hitting your head against the wall all the time thinking, oh, it's not working, then maybe it's not the right time and it shouldn't be working. I mean, the work is hard. The work is hard, but it should feel like it's in like, for me at my best, again, it feels like I'm in like a flow with it, where it's like, there is a lot of work, there is a lot of hustle, but I don't feel like I'm doing it through quicksand the whole time.
Okay. Yeah. And then literally that synergy is just there and it's so organic.
Yeah. It's because everybody present is like, they're devoting their time to it. Like the composer is like, yes, I want to do this. Or the recording engineer is like, yes, I'm doing this. Or the presenter is like, oh, we can't wait to have this. Like, when max enthusiasm is there and it's the right time for everybody to do something, that's when you're going to get the best results. It may not be right now, but it will be the best result.
Sweet. Nice. Are you looking for the perfect flute or piccolo to take your music to the next level? Look no further than the Carolyn Esbaugh Music Company in Plano, Texas. Since 1996, we've been the go-to source for flutists of all levels, with an unrivaled selection of flutes, piccolos, low flutes, and head joints from dozens of top makers. But we're more than just a music store. We are your complete resource for everything flute related, with sheet music, instrumental accessories, teaching resources, and health information all under one roof. And our in-house staff of experts is always ready to help you find exactly what you need to achieve your musical goals. At the Carolyn Esbaugh Music Company, we're committed to excellence in all aspects of our business, from our top quality products to our friendly personalized service. And with an in-house repair staff certified in all major brands, you can trust us to keep your instruments in top condition for years to come. Follow us on social media to stay up to date on the latest news and events, and visit our website at fluteforyou.com to shop our extensive selection of flutes, piccolos, and more. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, the Carolyn Esbaugh Music Company is your one-stop flute shop. So speaking of which, because we've been talking a lot about your process and commissioning works and everything like that, let's take 10 steps back and talk about your awesome group, Hub New Music. What is it? How was it formed? What are you working on? Everything like that.
Yeah, so Hub was my school project at the New England Conservatory exactly 10 years ago, which is wild. This is our 10th anniversary season right now.
Wow.
Hub started as a free flow. Well, Hub right now, I should backtrack. Hub right now is a quartet of flute, clarinet, violoncello. We commission largely everything that we play. We play about somewhere between 20 to 30 concerts a year, mostly on the road. So we spend a lot of time traveling and get to go on so many different adventures. I'm currently at home right now for like a luxurious 5 days in my own apartment, in my own bed, which is terrific. And that's my job. It was my school project that turned into my job. And so when I got to NEC 10 years ago, NEC has a terrific entrepreneurial musicianship office that I spent so much time in. When I got to NEC, I was actually pretty dead set on getting an orchestral job. I had just come from playing at NRO. And like sitting in the hot seat for like all this like juicy flute repertoire. I was like playing Petrushka and Symphony Fantastique and so much chamber music. And I was like, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Duh. And then I got to NEC and I started taking a bunch of auditions and was not advancing and sort of face planting in several of them. And just got so discouraged in that process. I was thinking like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this for the next like 10 years until I like get one, you know? And then of course, then I have like, no control where I live. I, win a job in some orchestra somewhere, that's where I live. And so around the same time, I kind of got bit by the entrepreneurship bug because they had a presentation in the beginning of the school year, the entrepreneurial office. And I was like, oh, this is exciting. This isn't, playing orchestral excerpts for 30 seconds after, months of prep. And so I got really taken by that and decided that I wanted to play more chamber music because I always loved playing chamber music from a really young age and wanted to delve into more new music because it just wasn't what I was doing and it was exciting and new and fresh. And Hub had started as more of like a free-flowing collective of anybody who I could assemble who wanted to play some weird music for basically no money across the city of Boston because we had a non-existent budget at the time. And I would just get friends together and we would go play in churches and art galleries and like anywhere that would accept a bunch of grad students to like use their space for the night and, not charge us a rental fee. And so naturally I didn't have like pianos or percussion equipment or electronic things or like anything that you would have in these like nice concert venues that we had at school. And it was like 4 chairs and 4 music stands. I was like, okay, it's time to put together some programming without piano or percussion or anything, which in new music is hard. And so in a lot of research, I stumbled on this collection of repertoire that was commissioned by this group called the Seattle Chamber Players. And that was around like 2008. And they commissioned a bunch of works for flute, clarinet, violin, and cello by a bunch of really terrific composers. There was a Nico Muhly piece, Anna Klein piece, like really like juicy repertoire to play. And so we learned all of that music as if it was our Beethoven quartet or like our Nielsen, wind quintet, and we treated it like it was our standard rep. And so for an instrumentation that is not common, we were really fortunate that we didn't have to commission absolutely everything we played from the get-go. And so we kind of developed an artistic identity. We developed a repertoire that we could present in concerts. And then, we had something to share with the world. And a couple of years later, we started doing more active commissioning. And when I graduated from NEC, I got a job working in artist management. So I worked for a couple of years as a booking agent and a little bit as a publicist, and kind of learned my tricks of the trade of like how to make a press kit, how to book a tour, how to talk to a presenter, how to do all of these practices that I like never got that education in school, which I think informs a lot of how I teach now. And I learned a lot of the skills from being at an agency and applied them to my own work with Hub. And about 10 years later, it's my full-time job.
That is fantastic. So when you created this project for school, did you even have an inkling that this was going to be your full-time job?
Oh gosh. So I'm the most stubborn person alive. So I knew that I because I'm so stubborn, that I knew that I wanted it to be like part of my life, whether it was going to be my full-time job or not. I had, I think that was kind of for the world to decide. But I knew early on that I was really invested in this work, and I, had a knack for it, and I enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed developing the relationships with the composers and the traveling. And so I knew that I wanted it to be a significant part of my life. And fortunately, we were able to get it to a place where it is, my main gig. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
Out of pure stubbornness, yes, I wanted it to be my job.
Well, then you have met your partner in crime. I am the second most stubbornest person on this earth. So here we are.
Are you also?
So I'm curious. I know you've put a lot of amazing new commissions into our flute repertoire. I am not going to ask you to choose which of your babies is your favorite, because that is a very challenging, difficult question. But have there been any very special moments in a commission with said composer and venue or whatever the situation is or was, and you thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to store this away in my memory bank, and this was such a sweet, memorable moment because of X reason?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm really happy you said that, because, like as students, when, we're getting chamber music assignments for school or whatever, the flute doesn't have, Nielsen Woodwind Quintet, but the flute does not have as nearly as rich of a chamber music repertoire as obviously strings or piano or even like clarinet. And so much of what I do with Hub is, with all this commissioning, is I'm really happy that I get to contribute to the chamber music repertoire for the flute. That there is this kind of newer instrumentation of winds and strings, and we're developing this kind of library of music that, not just us can play, that anyone can play it. And, flute players can have that kind of rich chamber music experience that we maybe in the past did not get from the standard repertoire. In terms of, oh gosh, there's so many like really just like magical moments that you come back to that you're like, oh, this is why I do this. Speaking of like repertoire that other folks can play, we had a residency at USC, University of Southern California, last November. And it was the first time that Hub coached a piece of a student group that we commissioned. And it was like, that was a moment I'll never forget. It was a piece called New Addresses by a good friend of mine named Chris Cerrone. And the flute part is like devilishly hard. And so the student group is playing it, and they sounded terrific. And I just remember like going up to the flute player and be like, okay, here are all the tricks. It's like, no, we don't do this in bar 25. We do this instead. And it was just kind of that moment of like, when the thing that I did and the music that I played and toured and commissioned kind of added this pedagogical element to it, it felt so much more real. It was like, oh, this is like performance practice in the making. When you have that piece of standard rep, like, oh yeah, everybody takes time in this bar. That's like when the beginnings of the Hub repertoire that we've commissioned starting to develop performance practice. And like, to have a life beyond us and to be like in the repertoire. And that was so special. I'm trying to think, what are some other like really good ones? Well, the project with Kojiro is one that's also really, really special. We this isn't like a single moment more than it was like a 2-week excursion. We toured that program in Japan for 2 weeks in 2018. And we played this one concert in this small village called Hita. And our concert was a benefit. It was in a shrine there. And it was this benefit because the town was like ravaged by this horrible flood the year before. And our concert was like a fundraiser to like rebuild parts of the town. And then after the concert, they threw us this like big community dinner. And it was the most beautiful thing in the world. And we all had a table with various people from the village. And it was just the most like beautiful, warm moment that I'll never forget. And also just comically, they, at the end of it, they each handed us this gigantic bottle, like the size of my arm, bottle of sake. And they opened it and we drank some and they were like, it's a gift. And we're like, oh God, I don't know what to do. And so it was smack dab in the middle of the 2-week tour. And for the rest of the tour, I had this giant bottle of sake just sticking out of my backpack on the train going from like hotel to hotel. And it was like our charge for the last week that we each had to polish up because it was such good sake. We didn't want to waste it. And so we're like, okay, everybody, we got to finish these between now and when we leave Tokyo next week. And, you know, I guess that's not really commission or repertoire related more than it is like the act of like playing it and sharing it. But yeah, there are just so many like moments and stories that I can come back to over the past decade of saying like, I am so grateful for doing this as a job. And, you know, we frequently joke that it's like silly that what we do is a job, but it's great. You do it for the stories.
I love that. And sake is really good. I literally grew up more Asian than Western because my father was a missionary's son who was born and raised outside of Tokyo for 21 years.
Yeah.
So that was very much a part of how he raised his family. You know, it was like sushi every Friday night. It was Chinese mahjong, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. So hot sake is the best. I can't drink sake at room temperature.
Yeah. I also really love, which I guess this is kind of like a controversial topic. I love the unfiltered kind, like the really cloudy, ricey one. Those are my favorite to drink. And I'm pretty sure that's what they gave us. And now I have like, ever since going to Japan, sake is ruined for me because it's just like
you can't.
It's not even the same drink over here. It's just not.
You're a sake snob.
A little bit. And oh my God, the amount of sushi that I had at 7-Eleven of all places. Over there, 7-Eleven is a really good grocery store.
Good to know.
Yeah, go to 7-Eleven in Japan. If anyone takes away anything from this interview, it's that.
Perfect. That will be the title of the episode.
Yeah, go to 7-Eleven in Japan with me.
That's too fun. So talking about and thinking about and just seeing you on tour going to Japan and all of these other places, the first thing that comes to my mind is it sounds like your flute is literally your passport. It is letting you have these opportunities that perhaps you never even expected for yourself.
It is, and I have to get it repaired all the time.
I bet.
And one of the many wonderful things about being a Haynes flute artist is that the repair department are the best people on earth. Joy is, oh my God, Joy is like, I owe her so many cookies and Christmas cards and everything for the amount of repairs they do on my flutes. I play on 2 because, you know, I have to kind of swap them out because after like, you know, being on the plane and rattling in my bag and in a bus and a minivan driving across America for 2 weeks, the flute is not happy. But yeah, the flute it is a passport in that way. I never even thought about it like that. I just, you know, think of it as the thing that I like blow into for a few hours a day and hope for the best. But yeah, it is. It's kind of like my ticket to various things because I don't personally travel ever. I don't go on vacations. I just go on work trips.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. So outside of Japan, has there ever been another location where you're like, ooh, I've got to come back here?
Yes. Oh, we got so many. We play in Southern California quite a bit, and I love being in LA. I actually just got back from LA 2 days ago, and it's just, I love the food scene and the cultural scene, and geographically it's gorgeous. And, I love being in Southern California. Let's think other places. We went to London 2 years ago. No, last year. And that was a really funny trip. It was beautiful, and I'm dying to go back. 3 of us got COVID in London, and we got stuck there. We got stuck there for 2 weeks.
Oh man!
And we actually went an hour south to Brighton, which is now like one of my favorite places in the whole world. I have this like deep fondness of Brighton for being stuck there with COVID. And, it was just this time that was so bizarre and existed outside of space and time, because you're like stuck in another country with COVID. And I just walking around and masked, of course, but just developed this deep fondness of the place. And London was gorgeous, and gosh, there's been so many places. And a lot of the time, it's the more kind of remote places that we go to that wind up being so rich, because we get to share something that people haven't heard before, or haven't heard anything even like it before. And I find that, playing in the major cities is always really, really fun, but I find it equally as rewarding to go somewhere that doesn't have as active of an arts and culture scene, and to go and kind of briefly be part of that community and share something. And there are things that people like and things that people didn't like, because new music group, there's always going to be something a little strange on the program. But playing in like the middle of Nebraska, or going out into like the mountains of Western Colorado with a more rural concert presenter, like those are experiences that I like never really forget, because people come up to you after the concerts and they're like, oh my God, I loved that. And I've never heard anything like that. Or like, oh God, why did you do that for 20 minutes? I'll never, after that one concert in rural Colorado, I'd never forget the guy who came up to me who was like, there's always one after every concert. And he comes up to me and he's like, were those microtones or were you just out of tune? And I looked over, I'm like, oh, look, the wine is at the reception. Let's go over there where the wine is. And it's these experiences of like getting to meet people and go places you never would have gone before. And I'm rambling now, but the answer is yes. There's so many places. There's very few places that we go to that I'm like, oh God, I never want to come back.
Okay. Do you mind sharing those places, or is it like taboo and you don't want to? Yeah.
I'll tell you when I'm not being recorded, because there's one city that I've nearly died in twice, and I don't like going there.
Oh no. So once we hit stop, you'll let me know.
Once we hit stop, I will say that city, because I've almost died there twice. And anyone who's listening who knows me, they know what it is.
Oh, shoot. Well, I'm glad you survived both times.
Me too. The first time I was like, oh, this is just, a weird thing. And then the second time I was like, this place has it out to get me. I don't trust this place.
Oh, shoot. Well, speaking of traveling and tours, your episode is going to air in December. So let's think 2024. Outside of February in Houston, do you know any other cities that you're going to be touring to, so that way the listeners can put it on their calendar?
Oh, yeah. So it is our 10th anniversary season. And speaking of commissioning, we have a lot of really like delicious works coming. We are playing, we're thinking Houston. I should just look at my calendar, because of course I can't remember like where I'm going ever.
I totally put you on the spot. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I should like know this. Okay, cities are for some reason leaving my brain, but I can tell you what we're playing, which is super, super
There
exciting.
You go.
And then anybody, hubnewmusic.org, our schedule is all there. That schedule is more accurate than anything I would possibly say on a podcast. So we have new commissions coming by Nico Muley and Tyshawn Sori and Marcos Balter and Donica Dennehy. And we're also touring this really excellent new work that's outside of our 10th anniversary by Nina C. Young. It's this 24-minute electroacoustic, poetry-inspired, like 5-movement, just like symphonic style work. And it's so gorgeous. We're playing that a lot. Also touring these 2 excellent pieces that we commissioned this past season by Angelica Negron and Jessica Meyer. And we're playing those all over. Actually, cities are starting to come back to me now. We're playing in Boston with the Celebrity Series of Boston in February of 2024, which will be so fun. That's the premiere of the Marcos Balter piece. We're making our Kennedy Center debut in March, which is super cool, on March 14th with a big project with a composer named Carlos Simon that we're touring called Requiem for the Enslaved, which is it's just really deep, meaningful, beautiful project. Carlos teaches at Georgetown, and the piece is inspired by the sale of 292 slaves in 1838 that Georgetown had done to pay its debts, and it kind of acknowledges that history in a really profound, meaningful, beautiful way. And it's a collaboration with a trumpet player named MK Zulu and a spoken word artist named Marco Pave. And, we recorded it and it was nominated for a Grammy last year. And it's a really deep, powerful, important project. And we're doing it at the Kennedy Center, which is a wonderful place. Thank you. And I'm so excited that we get to share the project on like such a large platform. Then, gosh, after that, we're also doing a concerto. We have so much going on.
Yeah, you do. I'm checking out your website right now, and your calendar is jam-packed.
Yeah, I can't remember any of it because it's all,
I don't blame you.
Swirling in my brain of like, it's really like day by day these days with me. It's like, what do I have to practice and what emails are in my inbox? We're doing a concerto by our friend named Gala Flagello for Hub and Band. It's just so fun, and she's brilliant. She's also my neighbor here in Ann Arbor. So yeah, a lot of really good stuff coming up, and we're just grateful to be doing it. It's an honor and it's a privilege to do what we do and to get to fly around the country and the world and play music that our friends write for us.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contributions to our music repertoire.
It makes me really happy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of work.
It is, but when it's like Christmas when you get a score in the mail that you commissioned 3 years ago, and so much went into just bringing the thing to life, and when you finally get it and you have that like first rehearsal on it, and it's just like it all comes to life, and it's no longer like an idea or a contract or a thing. It's a piece of music that you can hear, and then playing it, and then the other kind of big rewarding moment is like when you get the recording and you're like, oh gosh, it's like really a thing now, and then the CD is out and it's in the world, and it's thank you. It is a lot of work, but there's so many like points of just like extreme kind of warmth and gratitude and like, oh gosh, look what we did, moments that just make all the work really, really worth it.
Cool. Yeah. And the other thing I want to wrap up with, because I do want to respect your time, is Haynes. You mentioned that you are a Haynes artist, and you mentioned Joy and the fantastic work that she does on your flute. Is there anything upcoming with you and Haynes in terms of like Haynes University or anything like that?
I don't think so. I send them my touring schedule, and we're always kind of like going back and forth about Haynes related stuff that I could do while I'm on the road. And just like I'm just going to be a fanboy so hard right now. Because it's a flute podcast, so I should talk about my flutes.
There you go.
All my instruments are Haynes. My piccolo, my alto, my 2C flutes. They're probably sick of me at this point. I actually recently, speaking of Joy Roberts and just like the absolute like sorcery that she does over there, they overhauled my older 14K that I hadn't played in years. It was just sitting in a box in my bedroom. I was like, I had this flute for so long, and it took a while for the overhaul to happen because it was like they brought it back from the dead, and they gave me my flute, and I was trying this gorgeous head joint that I was trying at the workshop, and it was like I think I cried a little bit because getting my flute back from literally from the dead was great. And speaking of folks at Haynes, Avon O'Leary is, I will go on the record, sorry, other flute makers in the world, Avon O'Leary is the best head joint maker on planet Earth. Ooh. It is what she does is just, it's mind blowing. It's the nicest head joints I've ever played in my life, and probably will ever play in my life. And Corinne and Blair and Finley over there, they're just the warmest team of people, and they are so good to their artists and to all of their customers. And Gareth is super terrific, and everybody there, it's like you always feel like they have your back, and they're like invested and interested in your career, and their artist roster is like full of so many different kinds of people with so many different career paths and styles of music that they play. And it's just, I think it's really easy to say, like, to throw around the word like community or family or whatever in a kind of lip servicey way. But with them, it's so, they hold so true to that there. And they're so good to their artists, and they're the sweetest people. And I love them. I've never felt so taken care of by like anything instrument related in my life. They're so great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that.
They're the best.
Yeah. No, and you don't know this, and I say this a lot to my 360ers, and I'll say it again because I love preaching this from the rooftops. 360 wouldn't be 360 without Carolyn Nesbaum and Haynes, because literally Haynes was my first sponsor for Flute 360. And so they hold a very special place in my heart. Just the fact that they entrusted into me, just that partnership and that collaboration over the years, it's very special to me as well. So I'm hearing common themes among your experience and Flute 360's experience.
Yeah, they're just, oh my gosh. I love them. They're the best. They come to our concerts when we're in Boston. They're just all some of like my favorite people on this earth. And not even to mention that the instruments are like Strads. They're all just, oh God. Like I have two, I have a 14 karat that I love playing on, and I have a silver with a platinum head that I also like just love. And they work so well, and they're so in tune, and they're so well made. And yeah, I tell everyone, just like, get a Haynes. You'll be fine. Just get a Haynes.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. And you may really like, and the listeners may really like, if you haven't heard this episode already, but it's episode 236. And because you're talking about their magical sorcery and what they do with head joints and things like that, the flute makers talk on Flute 360 about how they approach the flute making process. So you may really geek out about that, Mike, because like, they all talk about it. Joy, everyone on the team, they talk about like their process, their perspective, how they approach each instrument. It's really cool. And I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, I went to I've been to the workshop so many times, and I had like never actually had like a tour of the factory portion.
Yeah.
And they were like, how is this possible? And I walked through, and it was like a kid in the candy store, and I was like, ooh, what does that one do? What does that machine do? Ooh, that's cool. Weird. And it was just so, they probably should have videoed it and made like, every reaction was very memeable on my end.
I like the finger pointing. I could literally see it go down.
And then they tried to, and then I remember one of the people there was like, who's making someone's instrument, and he was like watching it. It was like this gorgeous, gorgeous flute he was working on. And it was like, flutes are just like high functioning pieces of jewelry. And I was like, they are high functioning pieces of jewelry.
Yeah.
And that was just like something that's like imprinted in my brain from that experience. But
that's what David literally talked about through episode 236.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating.
Yeah, it was. He told me that, and I was like, you're not wrong. It's really funny. But yeah, they're the best. And, they're the greatest.
Too fun. So the last segment of the show, one last question to put you on the spot. The last segment of the show I do with my guests is picks. So what is your pick for today? It could be your favorite TV show, movie, book, anything that's in your life right now that you cannot live without. Tell me all the things.
Okay, so it is October as we're recording this, so it is spooky season. I just absolutely binged Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix, and it's an absolute masterpiece. Mike Flanagan, horror director, so brilliant. And what I love, it's an 8-part miniseries, and what I loved at the end of it, it was like, you could really explore the form of the show, and it was like music. It was like, it had this like incredible like expository episode that was also, I won't do any spoilers, but it's the beginning and the end, so maybe that was a spoiler. And then there's 6 episodes that are like the meat and potatoes, the structure of it, and then it comes back, and it was like, this was like it was like musical form. It was really, really incredible. So TV show, Follow the House of Usher. Movies, gosh, what have I watched? I haven't watched any good movies lately. Food, I I'm making a lot of pies because it's the fall.
Ooh.
I bake a lot. It's my big passion, non-musical thing that keeps me sane when I'm home. But yeah, those are my picks right now.
Really good picks. Thanks for sharing.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Michael, it was so fantastic to have you. I loved picking your brain. I loved hearing your story. Thank you for your contributions to our community. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect.
Me too. It was so wonderful. Thank you for having me and for everything that you do, for sharing all of this knowledge. And I was listening to the podcast, when you wrote to me about it, and just all the different kinds of people and all these different kind of rich experiences, and, sharing them is so beautiful. So thank you for everything you do. This was so much fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, we will stay in touch. And like I said, your episode airs at the end of December, and I will for sure send you the link and all that jazz. But I hope you have a blessed day.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. If you want to be a part of a flute community that you can call your own, please join me and other 360ers in our private Facebook group. Here, we hold discussions that matter to you, share our latest victories, and support each other through our musical endeavors. All you have to do is click the link below to join our private Facebook group called Flute 360 Family. Thanks! Let's talk about flute.